there is that pressure that, as men, we are supposed to have it figured out. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It really doesn't matter what time of day.
Hi, Ian.
Thank you for tuning in once again to see it through my eyes.
You're
And
welcome.
yes, this is Ian. Now, usually you guys are used to Ricardo, giving the introduction and things like that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, this time he's actually giving me the opportunity to do the intro. So I'm going to be the one that's kind of greeting you guys. We hope that this episode actually kind of puts some things in perspective, and also be something pretty entertaining as well. So I'm joined here with Ricardo this time, because the two of us actually do have a discussion that we'd like to share with y'all. But the first things first, say your name, kid, and say hi to the people.
Back. So today we're going to talk about custody. No, just kidding. But yeah, we're back.
Yes, and then just to make sure that everybody's included, Stan the editor is also here with us.
Say hi, Stan.
Hi.
Yeah, this time he's on vocal rest. We decided to give his voice a little time to relax and reprieve. So
Oh, he got demoted. That's what happened. He's behind the camera now.
He did not get demoted. But anyway, so me and Ricardo, we do have a topic for you guys. We do hope that you guys, both like this, like and subscribe to this channel, right? Like, share.
Like, subscribe, thumb me, and comment, do all that good stuff.
All right.
Figure me down.
Sure. Okay, so I'm not about dragging out suspense. So the topic that we are going to be talking about is kind of social pressure. And what that looks like is in a matter of time. I want to kind of set this up the right way. So on February the 17th, Ricardo celebrated his 29th birthday. Clap, 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 clap. On March 24th, I celebrated my 28th one. Clap, 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 clap.
Boom.
Such a troll. And Jesus and even Omar, he celebrated his birthday March the 13th. Yes, clap to that too. And then Jesus also will be having
Celebrating his on the 28th. Don't roll your eyes at me. I'm trying to remember. The 28th of October, right?
Yes.
Good.
There we go.
See, I remember.
So I figured that this time we kind of discussed something that we don't really like to talk about that much, is that as we get older, which all of us are, we kind of sometimes feel like we're running out of time.
Wait. You threw my age. How come you don't throw your age? How old did you turn, sir?
28?
Okay, then. So my old ass out there, you don't even say how old you became.
Some of us are closer to the 30-yard line than others.
You're 2 years apart.
But yeah, because we're getting older, we sometimes feel like we're running out of time. We feel like we're running out of time to do stuff in life, whether it's like actually have careers, whether it's, get in a real relationship, start families, all of that stuff. And because we have a fear of that, most of the time we try to make desperate decisions. So we just try to get together with somebody. We try to just try any type of career, try to, just do anything and everything that we can while we're in essence still young, because we feel like the older we get, those opportunities aren't going to stay. And so the topic that we're going to be dealing with is going to be around that, where it's just, yes, you're getting older and it's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually something to be actually, proud of. It's a good thing. Okay, so Ricardo, like the best way we're going to deal with this, I think I'm just going to basically have this as if I'm like just talking to you on a general basis. Like, yeah, the people's going to be here, but I'm just going to be talking to you, brother to brother. Simple as that. So I'm going to ask you, why do you think we feel like, why are we afraid of getting older? Why do you think we have that fear then?
I'm glad that you invited me to this interview, Aaron.
Oh
and let me answer your question with another question. Why do you think I think obviously it's gonna be every individual is gonna have a different reason why. I take it personally, me, the especially the last few years, I feel I have been putting more of that pressure. One big thing is culture. I feel in our, depending on, well, you and your culture, me and my culture, but me speaking on like my culture, that it's kind of expected that by a certain age, we Mexicans, we populate and multiply like rabbits, so you're supposed to have like 1,000 kids. You're already supposed to have like a couple, marriages behind your back and all that good stuff. Your, job, house, all that. So it kind of has been weighing on me for the last few years, especially because, getting to the big 3-0, to me, it has been, that pressure has been kind of lying on me. And even, people will make those comments like, oh, you're starting to get up there in age, and then, either they compare you, oh, you're this person already at 24 or, a little bit younger. They started their family, that their kids, the house and job. And whether you, in that moment, you might get defensive and, you might tell yourself, oh, no, you're good.
Yeah.
But eventually I feel it does. If you don't catch yourself, it does kind of stay with you. And it, similar to like any type of insecurities and doubts, it'll come in some of your lowest points where your confidence is not so high up, especially, me, like in my situation, I've been for the last few years, it's been kind of a start and end on a lot of aspects of my life. I started new jobs and ended those jobs, because XYZ reasons, not the fit or just, other stuff going on in my personal life. I started school started college right after high school. Did that for like 8 years. Didn't get a PhD. I got an associate's, which I'm happy about. But the years that I spent and the energy that I also put in and what I felt that I got out does not measure up.
I see.
And I did step away, especially when I started the new job. I stepped away from school and everything, especially, hell, even going back to when we started originally the podcast back in 2020, I took that break and I was happy that, we were going to try this new experiment and everything. Right. And I felt, I remember we had this conversation about burning out, in regards to school.
Yep.
And even with like Jesus and Omar, we had the same conversation about burning out, stepping away, doing stuff like that. But fast forward a couple years later, work the first time around didn't work out. So then I was like, I can't just sit at home doing nothing. That's not my style. So let me try going back to school. That didn't work out either. For XYZ reason. And when all that kind of piled up on me, I was like, started work, went back to school, hasn't worked out. I'm still living with my family, trying to get my own place. I tried living independently, didn't work out. Was in previous relationships, that didn't work out. And this kind of start and end type of thing, I feel that has been a big pressure also on me, where I'm like, okay, I'm about to turn 30 already, and I don't have a family, I don't have my own place. I can't seem to find a job that I could keep and I could see myself doing for, from high school. I was told by, counselors that social work, psychology, that was the field for me, especially being visually impaired, that was a good field because a lot of visually impaired people tend to go that route. You get me?
Yeah.
Out of high school, though, one of my passions and what I actually wanted to do was criminal justice. I wanted to be in the SWAT team. Not, being a sniper or anything, but being a negotiator. And because of a certain person who shall remain anonymous, I got talked out of it. You get me? Yeah. And I was kind of I settled because I was like, back in high school, the path that I was taking, school was never in the books. You get me? So to me, I was like, well, they know what they're talking about. I don't know what direction I want. I don't know what career I want. I don't really know what my future is. Because, again, since little, I did kind of had that image of my future being having a family, having kids, a wife, a house, and
The white picket fence.
I never thought about not the white picket fence, the black gate. We're from the hood, but
That's true.
but I kind of had that, So then, fast forward when it got put into execution, all this kind of happening in a couple years, I felt directionless. And I'm not gonna lie, I still kind of do till this point. And those thoughts do start coming up where it's kind of like before it was your mother, it was, I don't know, older family members, teachers who were getting on your ass about, okay, you're supposed to get this done so you can have this by this point of your life and have this point. But now it's kind of like that inner voice is now me telling myself I'm supposed to have this already.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have this already. And then when you kind of compare what you're supposed to with what reality is, it doesn't align with those plans. And that pressure do start kind of, those insecurities that the, depression starts kicking in. Even when I was back at work or even with school, doing things that I wasn't passionate about, but because, again, this was a so-called direction, I felt, similar to what a lot of people say when they go to work, they're working a 9-to-5 job that they hate. I was starting to kind of get that bitterness.
Yeah.
And, I've learned that. Well, we'll get to that. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it actually does. And I was say, believe it or not, it literally, I heard something when you was like, going in about it. It's just that, the pressures that come from the people around you sometimes, where they mean well, where, again, your parents, they mean well, teachers mean well, this and that. But the reality is they aren't you. And they don't know what's fully best for you. And sometimes, because it's okay. I mean, we're going to have to talk about it at some point, but it's okay to not be sure about your future. I don't know where we started getting this wrong, where we thought, I'm a teen, I'm supposed to have it all figured out by 18. It's
generational.
It is.
Because I feel, not to interrupt, but I feel for generations, that was the old school mentality.
Yeah.
By 15, you're already supposed to have, your
full-time job.
You're supposed to have that, and it's been passed on. And it's a good tradition. It's a good, mentality to have all that settled down eventually. But I feel with time, if you don't kind of update and, start changing that mindset, it doesn't apply to what's going on in the present moment. Like financially, economically, career-wise, just personally, because a lot of things that are, you use like mental health or you use like self-care, that wasn't really thought about back then.
Of course not.
And whereas now, back then it was, just suck it up. Now it's kind of, you want to find the right person. You want to know that you're happy. You want to find the right job, the right career, stuff like that. You want to make sure that you bring a child into this world, that you're going to be able to put a roof over their head, food on their plate. And I'm not saying that back then that wasn't that type of thinking, but I feel like nowadays it's a little bit more critical. Like you think about it. Plus, again, the economy, just everything going on around the world that makes it way more different. It might have worked a couple decades ago,
but like you said back then, in that generation, they probably didn't, not saying they didn't have pressure, but the level of pressure that is now versus back then, it's totally different.
Yeah. And I think it's I consider myself somewhere in the middle between tradition and modern.
Yeah.
So I feel it's a good mindset to have, if you want to settle down and all that, if that's how you want to live your life. I feel it is, and that's how I want to live my life. But I also have to remember how in the days of my parents, if that worked, that was that then, back then, a couple decades ago, not to make them, Daryl, so back then it worked. Now it doesn't, and individually too, it worked for them. For me, it might not.
No, you're right. Because, I shared this with you where, my mom, she had a conversation with me when I was 27. about, I guess, me pending 30, and it was like, well, when are you going to start settling down and this and that. And I mean, the ironic part is she has a whole older son who's closer, yes, by a year, but he's closer to 30 than I was. And she didn't have that conversation with him. She only had it with me. Now, I mean, part of that might be because she knows, when she tries to talk to him, it just, he filters it, and then it might not get, actually through.
It's like the parents of Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah.
But then I think when she comes this way, I mean, I can't even lie. There's moments where I do, listen, and then other stuff kind of ends up going in that direction.
Wah, 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 wah.
But it is true though, and because we want to try to uphold tradition, and we want to just again sometimes even prove it that, hey, I already made it to this point in my life at this young age, because I've noticed many people like those stories where it's someone at an incredible young age pulling off really big, ridiculous things. Mm-hmm. And, and many people, they get, it's a shouting point to them. They, like, oh, that's great. Like, that's a real inspirational story. But it's like, there are those who have story narratives where they had to wait. It took years. They probably had to go through the long route of even experience failure and stuff before they got, they big break that they was looking for. I think the biggest example I always pull out is J.K. Rowling, who did Harry Potter, where she got turned down by what? I think, was it 12 or 13 publishers? Because none of them saw her idea of some kid with magic and wizards and stuff like that. And one eventually did out of those rejections, and a whole phenomenon. And I'm pretty sure they was kicking themselves in the ass that why didn't we see this? So, I mean, I totally get it.